Hello, it's July 9th. I'm Ezra Levant, and you're watching Battleground. Hello, and welcome back to Battleground. I'm Ezra Levant. It's going to be a great week. We have so much to talk about. I was away for about 10 days. I was in Israel. We had a special Rebel Israel trip there. We took 6 of our on-air talent with us, plus more than 50 of our most enthusiastic viewers who wanted to check out Israel for themselves. Katie Hopkins was amongst our journalists. She actually went into several West Bank areas in addition to the regular trip that the 50 or so of us went on. It was very interesting. If you want to see those videos, you can see them all at rebelisrael.com. Well, we're back and there's so much to talk about. Canadian things to talk about, American things to talk about. I want to start with some amazing news from the United Kingdom. Boris Johnson has resigned. He's quite a character. You'll recognize him immediately with his shock of platinum blonde hair. He resigned over the UK Conservative Party's failure to take meaningful steps to give effect to Brexit, the attempt by Britain to extract itself from the European Union. Look at that, Boris Johnson resigns. It's incredible. He's not the first Conservative to resign. Probably won't be the last. It's just another crisis for Theresa May, the wobbly UK PM. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I just want to remind you what we're doing here, though, what this super chat business is. What is super chat? Does it refer to me being super chatty? No, it's a special thing that YouTube made, Google made. As you can see on the right-hand side of your screen there, there's the scrolling comments, right? Real-time comments. That's really fun and easy. For folks who want to be super chatters, though, if you chip in $5 or whatever, $10, your comment is highlighted in a bold color, and it is appended to the top of the super chat page for everyone to see for an extended period of time. So it's not just passing in the night. And I do my best to read all the super chats as well. So we do this every day. It's only 1 hour. It's sort of light and not overly produced. It's not like my 8 p.m. Eastern show. And I mentioned Boris Johnson resigning, which it's interesting. We saw a couple days ago Nigel Farage, the great leader of UKIP, who retired basically after winning the Brexit election, saying if Brexit were not to be done properly, he would have no alternative, he said, but to return to the battle, the political battle. He, of course, remains a member of the European Parliament, but he said he would get back in and help fight for a second Brexit if necessary. That ought to focus a few minds. Moonman chips in $2 and said, I'm in awe of the size of this lad, absolute unit. Not sure who you're talking about. If you're talking about me, I'll take it as a compliment. So Boris Johnson, I'm excited that he's bolting because it shows that, I mean, Boris Johnson is nothing besides ambitious. I happen to like the guy, by the way. But if he thinks the right move is to abandon Theresa May, that means that he's done the thinking because he is pragmatic. I mean, I think he is principled. A lot of people don't think so. But the fact that he thinks it is to his advantage to quit tells me it will be safe for others to do so. And you know what? Fair deal. Brexit was crystal clear. The Brits won out. And here we are more than 2 years later. And the Tories, the party that claimed they would, I mean, they're the party that called the referendum. They thought that would let the air out of the balloon. Well, to their shock, they lost the referendum. And now they're half-heartedly negotiating an exit. Well, bloody well exit. It's been 2 years. Remember, Brexit predated Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has had 500 days, 530 days, whatever it is, of executing his promises. Where's the British government to execute the promise to get out of Brexit? And yes, it makes sense to do so in an orderly fashion, but that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to slow walk it for the purpose of, as we say in Canada, ragging the puck. Work to rule, as they would say. They are doing it in the slowest possible manner and the lowest possible manner, rather than saying we're out of here. And I think the British people have every right to feel like their democratic wishes are being annulled by the Remain. That's the opposite of the Leave and Remain, the two sides. By the elites, the banking elites, the globalist elites, the open borders immigration elites. Good. I'm glad that there's chaos for Theresa May because she has earned it. Let's take a few comments here. By the way, Hannah, can you Google size of this lad absolute unit? Because I know what that fellow's talking about. He's talking about a hotelier in the United Kingdom who happens to be a favorite of Queen Elizabeth. So just type in that fellow's comment. I want to show people what he's referring to. It's sort of funny. I think he's referring to the fact that I'm a little bit fat, but I want to show the original there. It's actually a meme. Blurred picture of Mike Wazowski, UKIP. Well, I'm a fan of UKIP. I've been a fan of theirs since before the 2016 Brexit referendum. I've followed them with some consternation as they have deflated in the last few years. I've followed the leadership race where Anne-Marie Waters was given the boot. She was never in, but she wanted to be. I've interviewed Gerard Batten, their new leader. I rather like the fella. We had an extended interview. We mailed that to all of our UK viewers. Chris Rubin, Tories and Labour are two cheeks of the same ass. That's not a very friendly thing to say, but I can understand why you would say it. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. I mean, I think there are important moral distinctions between the British Conservatives and the British Labour Party, but on Brexit, both of them are slow walking it, aren't they? And both of them, I think, are elites who don't care what the regular folks say. Can you show that absolute unit? There we go. In awe at the size of this lad, absolute unit. I think that the commenter was claiming that I look like this fella. This fella runs one of the finest hotels and restaurants in the United Kingdom. And he's one of the Queen's favorites. So I think someone is implying that that's what I look like. I'm not that bad, folks. I'm not that bad. All right, let's go back to the comments. The new Peasants' Revolt. Let's finish what Tyler started. Angela Cobb. In fact, I think we love most countries, just not their governments. Look, if you don't like UKIP, that's fine. But in a democracy, the results ought to have meaning. Otherwise, you want to talk about demoralization and disaffection from politics. That was a clear message. All the establishment, all the money, all the media, all the banks, all the fancy people, all the pollsters were for Remain. Leave was a populist nationalist reaction to the excesses of the European Union and open borders immigration. And in many ways it mirrored Donald Trump. Oh, all the experts said Trump had no chance of winning. All the pollsters, all the media, all the banks, all the experts, all of Wall Street. Wall Street was for Hillary Clinton, if you can believe it. And Trump won. In fact, Trump had his finger on the pulse. You may recall he flew to the UK and supported Brexit, whereas Barack Obama flew to the UK and threatened Brexit. He said, I don't know if you recall this, Barack Obama, in the middle of the British Brexit campaign, said, if you pull out of the European Union, sure, we'll negotiate a trade deal with you, but you will go to the back of the queue. And he said this, by the way, at the request, we've recently learned, of the Remain. So the Remain campaign literally asked a foreign leader to threaten Brits that he would harm them economically if they voted to leave. Well, they voted to leave nonetheless. So the same sort of bullying there, the same sort of, and note the reaction to Donald Trump's win, an attempt to delegitimize it. Oh, it was hacked. Oh, it was rigged. Oh, we need a recount. All that BS, they were trying to delegitimize the results of Donald Trump's election in 2016. And in the UK, since it wasn't a changing of the government, right? I mean, Donald Trump won, he just plain old won, and he took over. I mean, there were some intransigent, embedded Democrats, there still are, especially in the Justice Department and the FBI, who were not about to let Donald Trump actually de facto take office, but he took office indeed and has been fairly successful. That's the difference. Brexit, the same attempt to delegitimize it, except Brexit was an idea, get out of the European Union. It was not a party. So there was no champion of the Brexit vote that could say, all right, clear out all you other parties, clear out, we're the boss now. So it would be as if Trump had won in 2016, but without Trump. Trumpism won, but not Trump itself. That's what happened in Brexit, is the idea won. But there's no actual personification of that idea. The closest thing it would be Nigel Farage, and he's in a semi-retirement. He's doing lots of media, and he's doing his European Parliament gig. Anyway, so that's very interesting to me. And we have, even though Tommy Robinson, our former employee, is in prison. Of course, I'll be going to the UK on July 24th to attend his appeal, by the way. So I'll do some reports from there. And hopefully Tommy will be freed that day. I don't want to let my hopes get too high, but I actually think that Tommy Robinson's going to be freed on July 24th. And I'll give you my reasons for that later. But basically, that will be 2 months of hard time that he has served, much of it in solitary confinement. And I think any judge, just on the basis of the rules for parole, or tag as they call it over there, would look at 2 months in solitary and say, you know what, let the man out. I think Tommy Robinson's going to be let out. Maybe I'm a fool, maybe I'm naive, maybe I think that there's justice in a system that has shown itself too many times to be unjust. But that will be literally 63 days. Tommy was arrested on May 25th. His appeal is on July 24th. So is that 61 days? Someone with a calendar can do the math. But I think that's 60 days. I think that's exactly 60 days. So you serve 60 days in solitary. That's like serving a year in regular prison. I see Tom Youngjohn says intermittent fasting and keto diet may also cure cancer. Well, I had no idea. You know, I, like so many people, I try and lose some weight, but I don't try hard enough. The one time I was successful, I did go on the Atkins diet, which is very hard to get into, especially when you really break that sugar addiction. It's really hard, but it works. The trouble is keeping it off, but I appreciate the advice. All right, I've read some comments. It's 12:11. I want to show you a video from the United States. Oh, but before I see a super chat coming, I'm just going to read that and then we'll go to the United States. Viking Insane says, could Trump put economic pressure on the UK government to honor their commitment to Brexit? It's not bullying to support the democratic process. I don't think that's Trump's way. I don't think that's Trump's move. I think Trump will use his bully pulpit. He might tweet about it. That's his favorite thing to do. But for Trump to have some sort of economic punishment of the UK for them not following their own internal referendum, it doesn't sound like Trump. Trump has no problem fighting economically with foreign countries if they are doing something wrong in his eyes to America. China, Canada on trade, for example, Mexico on trade, for example, Iran, North Korea militarily. But if the UK does not honor its own referendum, how's that Trump's business? Trump is sort of a de-entanglement guy, don't you think? I have no doubt that Trump will say some supportive things and tweet about it. Trump and Nigel Farage are friends. I don't know if you remember, but Nigel Farage would actually occasionally open for Trump at his American rallies. That's quite something to have a foreign politician open in America, but he had the same message of populism and take back your country. So yeah, I think Nigel Farage was probably working with Trump to come up with just the right bon mot, the right few words. But no, you're not going to see economic sanctions. It's not America's business. I see Two Wolves chipped in $5, thank you, and said, when will we fight the anti-Christian education system? Well, you could be, I don't know where you're writing from. Are you in Ontario? Are you in Alberta? Are you in the United States? Are you in the United Kingdom? The answer is all of the above, isn't it? The education system across the West generally has been colonized by Marxists, postmodernists. Jordan Peterson has certainly shed a light on that at the post-secondary education level, but as any mom or dad knows, political infection of schools goes right into the tender years. I mean, I remember when my kids were in preschool and we sent one of them to a science camp. Well, how are you not going to win at science camp, right? Mix baking soda and vinegar and get a pretend volcano, plant a bean and watch it grow, you know. No. They were even propagandizing to 3 and 4-year-olds about global warming and giving them that scolding and hectoring. That ain't science, that's propaganda, that's politics. This was supposed to be some fun, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So yeah, I'm just talking about its general Marxism, but of course it's anti-Christian. I mean, that goes without saying. In Ontario, the newly elected Premier Doug Ford says he's going to do something about it. We'll see. I think he might. Okay, I think we're caught up on the Super Chats. My producer friends will tell me if I'm wrong. Oh, I think there's one more from Tong. It says, Google Dr. Eric Berg, intermittent fasting, keto cancer. All right. The Googling is the easy part, Tom. The hard part is actually following it. We talked a little bit about Brexit. Look, I'm not an expert in the issue, but I know what I like, and I like Brits saying Britain means something, and Britain should not be ruled from Belgium, and there are British culture and British laws, and referenda and democracies, you got to respect them. And I don't like the shenanigans, the cozy elites. Donald Trump would say, drain the swamp. The Ford brothers would say, stop the gravy train. It's the same in every country. I think that's what you're seeing in the United Kingdom. But I want to show you a couple of videos. The first one is a left-wing protest. Give the full marks to the left. They know how to do an eye-catching propaganda exercise. And here are some ladies who are protesting against Donald Trump's Supreme Court pick, which is quite something because Donald Trump has not picked his Supreme Court pick yet. But they know in advance, they just know it's going to be a bad pick. Look at these ladies reenacting Handmaid's Tale. Keep your theology off our biology. Get out of our privates. There's a coat hanger, which is meant to symbolize back alley abortions. So it's sort of a silent protest, a war on women, never Gilead. Gilead, of course, is that Christian theocracy. I should remind you, if you don't know the history of The Handmaid's Tale, it was written by a Canadian author named Margaret Atwood. And if you look back to when she first wrote that novel, she said she was sparked to write it by watching the revolution in Iran. She said that. There is no Christian theocracy in the world. There hasn't been a Christian theocracy for centuries. The Pope in Vatican City, maybe you could call that a theocracy, but it's not even really. That's just sort of a little tiny neighborhood in Rome, and it's subject to Roman secular law. There is no, there was the Holy Roman Empire centuries ago. There is no Christian theocracy, but there are theocracies in the world. You know it because it's right in their name, and you know it because of how they treat women. And so many of the metaphors and the symbols in Handmaid's Tale were exactly from the Iranian Revolution. But why wouldn't Margaret Atwood, especially back 30, 40 years ago, before Islamophobia was a thing, before political correctness and multiculturalism was really a thing, why did she set it in a Christian dystopia called Gilead? Why didn't she talk about it as the Islamic Republic of Iran or the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Those are two official Islamic theocracies that actually require women to dress actually much worse than those Republic of Gilead handmaidens, because they show their face. I don't need to tell you that in both Saudi Arabia and Iran, if you were to go out merely as those Handmaid's Tale actors were, that's not sufficient for the mutawin. That's the phrase for the religious police. Why is it that Margaret Atwood is so brave? And that, forget Margaret Atwood, HBO and all the others who were so enthused by The Handmaid's Tale, why are they so brave at fighting against an imaginary theocracy, but so timid when it comes to fighting against a real one? I don't know, but let me tell you about this case of a woman who lives in the Republic of Gilead. Can you remind me of her name, Hannah? I should have it here. Iran teenager dancing. I'm just Googling that myself. Here we go. Mayday Hojabri. That's her name. It was on the tip of my tongue. She's a 19-year-old woman, and when she goes out, she has to cover herself from head to toe in a black cloth sack. You can. This is her Instagram page. Do you see that one on the right? Yeah. That's her out and about in a black death bag. You see, she doesn't even show an inch of her wrist. Now, I think she has to go further and veil her face. You can see that she's a very pretty girl, 19 years old, under the black death garb. Mayda Hojabri, 19. But when she's at home, she takes off her smock, and like a lot of teenage girls around the world, she likes to tweet selfies, likes to Instagram, and she likes just to listen to Western music and dance. And I think she's not a bad dancer. We've had a bit of a debate here about around the office. I think she's got a few moves. Look at them. I mean, I don't know, is she a good dancer or not? She's got those finger guns there. I think here she's just actually trying to mimic. This is a Justin Bieber song, right? I think she's just mimicking him. There's some other dances, like she does a Shakira. Yeah, that's Justin Bieber. I know his moves by heart. Can we put up the one where she does the Shakira song? That's the one where she's wearing a skirt. There we go. She's a bit of a belly dancer. I mean, so Shakira. I think, again, she's more a mimic than a choreographer in her own right. She's got some tats. She's got a little bit of ink. She's got some Western lingo going on. You know, it always makes me laugh. You go to the third world and folks who don't really know English, they just, any English letters put together, they'll just sort of throw them on, whatever. But how are you not going to like this girl? Obviously a very comely lass. She's got some dance moves, and my point is, you know why? I mean, there are a million teenage girls like that on the internet. Why is this girl, let me get her name, Mayda Hojabri, why is she different? Because she's been arrested now. For those videos, her Instagram page is why she was arrested. She was in the privacy of her own home, in her own room. Yet she showed a little belly button there, as sometimes people do, including belly dancers. The songs aren't particularly racy. Justin Bieber, Shakira, songs like that. I think she's a mimic. I mean, if you remember Shakira's original video, and if you remember Bieber's video, I think that was a Bieber song, right? I think she's just absolutely copying their moves with some skill. It's just fun. That's what teenagers do. They dance, they listen to music in their room. You know, they post pictures on social media. She was arrested by real police in a real theocracy. No, not in the Republic of Gilead or whatever it's called in The Handmaid's Tale, but in the Islamic Republic of Iran, the favorite country of Barack Obama, the favorite country of Justin Trudeau, and Justin Trudeau's brother, Alexandre Trudeau, who made a propaganda video in collaboration with the Iranian state broadcaster, the movie, you can Google it. It's called The New Great Game. Justin Trudeau's brother literally made a pro-Iran propaganda video. This is the country they love, this theocratic dictatorship run by people building nukes and ICBMs. They just arrested a pretty girl for dancing in her bedroom and listening to songs. Can you believe that? Of course you can believe that. This is the country where they hang gays from cranes. When their former president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, spoke at Columbia University in New York City, he was asked about the treatment of gays. He said, there's no gays in Iran. And the left-wing students say, oh, because they didn't have the courage to challenge him. But actually, he's not lying, is he? Because if he ever finds a gay, he kills them. So he is actually, in some ways, accurate to say there are no gays in Iran, because the moment there are, then they're killed. So this is a real Republic of Gilead, except it's not just an HBO special, because you just know that CAIR, the Council of American Islamic Relations, would instantly complain Islamophobia. Linda Sarsour would claim Islamophobia. You couldn't have the Islamic Republic of Iran being mocked. You could have the fake Republic of Gilead being mocked. Except one's real and one's not. You know, every year the Oscars, I've stopped watching the Oscars. I think a lot of people did. I think that all those shows, they're plumbing new depths for how low their audience is. And I think a lot of it's politics. I think people are sick of, you know, Robert De Niro bravely taking on Donald Trump. How about taking on Iran? How about taking on Venezuela or Cuba or North Korea? I mean, seriously, how brave do you have to be to take on North Korea? Not brave at all. They have no friends in the world other than maybe China. You're not going to lose the huge North Korean market. In fact, most Koreans would be South Koreans who would love the fact you're standing up for freedom for their fellow ethnic Koreans. But Hollywood is so bereft of courage that they absolutely would never take on this actual misogyny. Okay, let me catch up. I think I missed a bunch of comments. Let me just see. Copa de Sao says some laws are made to be followed, others to be broken. If you're referring to that dancing teenager, I agree with you. Have I missed any others, Hannah? No, I don't think so. I think we're caught up. All right, so that's my point, is, and we're halfway done, it's 12:26, is I just saw those leftist marchers condemning Donald Trump's Supreme Court pick. Who hasn't been picked yet? Oh, speaking of condemning Donald Trump's judge who hasn't been picked yet, can I show you a little bit of this video taken in New York City by a group called Campus Reform? We've got our own website called Campus Unmasked. If you haven't checked it out, you should. But Campus Reform, they do good videos. And let me show you this video. Let me state the obvious. Donald Trump has not yet picked his Supreme Court nominee. That will happen tomorrow, I think, or maybe today. Tonight, thank you. Hasn't happened yet. But don't tell that to these really woke millennials. Take a look.
I'm Calvin Phillips with Campus Reform. Today we're in New York City talking to students about President Trump's Supreme Court pick. The only thing is he hasn't made that pick yet. Will people still have opinions on who it was, though? Let's find out. I think the big thing that's been in the news today, Supreme Court, Justice Kennedy stepping down. So there's a vacancy. All week people were worried about who it was going to be. This week he made his announcement. What's your reaction to the justice that he nominated today?
I'm honestly not surprised by his choice, but that's just worse for us.
I just saw the pick and I was like, it's almost at a point where you kind of expect that it's not going to be what you want.
He's quite, extreme in his views, and I don't know if it would make the Supreme Court very even.
I see it all over the news that he's racist and shit.
This new nominee is very racist, and I think it's starting a new wave of something very negative, and I'm really scared about what happens in the future and what choices he'll make.
And so what reaction have you seen on social media today after the news?
Oh, outrage, as it should be.
This is just a reoccurring thing. He keeps doing this with different positions and just doing whatever he wants, abusing his power.
Do you feel like his pick is an abuse of power?
Basically, yeah.
His entire cabinet and everyone he's chosen has been the white supremacist Legion of Doom, and it's dangerous to everyone who looks like me.
You feel like the Supreme Court nominee today kind of falls in that same line?
Of course. They should all wear white hoods and burn crosses at the Capitol, because that's exactly the move. That's what they're going for.
And the fact that he would put someone up there that is so racist and is not practicing the equality that we need to see, it's insulting, and he's not going to last. I mean,
so you're not a fan of the pick?
I'm really not.
I did speak to my dad a couple days ago, and I didn't know.
It goes on, and the passion and ferocity, or to quote that one lady, the outrage that they have, and the pick hasn't been picked yet. And that one fella who was talking about the white supremacist Legion of Doom and KKK hats, I guess that goes for Donald Trump's black cabinet appointees too, maybe. I don't know. black unemployment in the United States at all-time lows. Same with Hispanic unemployment. Whatever. Don't let facts get in the way of things. But it shows just how effective the demonization by the left has been. I have no idea who Donald Trump's going to pick. I think there's a chance he might pick a woman. And you have never seen misogyny like the misogyny of the left. The people who said, I'm with her, the people who said it's time for a woman. If it's a woman, I have no idea who's going to be. Get ready for the most vile scrutiny and condemnation from the left that calls itself tolerant. It reminds me of when one of the greatest justices of the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas, who for so long helped keep the flame of conservatism alive, when I think it was George H.W. Bush nominated Clarence Thomas. I think that's who it was. Well, you remember it was called a high-tech lynching. That's how it was described. You know why? Because if a Republican were allowed to nominate a black man to the Supreme Court, well, that's quite dangerous, because that shows that blacks can be Republican and Republicans can support blacks. And, well, the Democratic Party takes that vote for granted. You can't do that. Can't do that. I think Trump might make the same move. Trump has had some very senior appointees who are women, minorities, whatever. Kellyanne Conway chaired his campaign. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is doing a good job as his spokesman, I think, don't you? Nikki Haley, his ambassador to the United Nations, very good, I think. His ambassador to Canada is a woman. His Department of Homeland Security secretary, very tough, very tough woman. I think there's been some excellent appointees that appear to be made irrespective to race or sex. He just appointed a gay ambassador to Germany, a very high-ranking position. Rick Grinnell, I think, is the name of that ambassador. So yeah, all these folks who think they own, identity politics is so clearly about owning a certain demographic. Blacks can only vote Democrat. Gays can only vote Democrat. Or if you're in the UK, Labour. If you're in Canada, the Liberals. And Donald Trump is disrupting that narrative, isn't he? So let's catch up here. We looked at some of the dancing. I thought those were good dancing videos. Maybe I'm not hanging out on Instagram enough to know. I'm not saying that she could, win, Iran's Got Talent or something. I bet she could, though, by the way. I'm just saying she's a normal 19-year-old girl having some fun, and now she's been arrested. Tom Youngjohn says, bet you $2 that it's Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah, I think that's the name that was pitched. If I don't know that, Judge, but I think I saw the name Amy Barrett. So yeah, I think that could be it. Wouldn't that be something? Oh, watch the left freak out. Let's check the time here. It's 12:33. I've just checked because we go till 1 p.m. Eastern every day. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to go to the United Kingdom. I can't make it there this weekend for the big protest, but I encourage you to do so on July 14th at Whitehall. I assume I've asked Raheem Kassam for the details. I'll wait till I hear them before I send an email out. But if you're in the UK, absolutely go. I will be in court on July 24th in London at the Royal Courts of Justice because I have a feeling in my bones Tommy might be released. But also because I want to report from the appeal hearing itself. I don't want to have to rely on the mainstream media to get the facts for me. Because it is my observation that with maybe 2 exceptions in the entire country, the media in the United Kingdom despises Tommy Robinson, or at least pretends to. And what I mean by that is a lot of the tabloids, the working class, fun tabloids with naked girls on back page or whatever, and sports and soccer, a lot of those, their readers love Tommy. But their snooty editors downtown, for whatever reason, despise Tommy. They love writing about Tommy, but always disparagingly. And it is very difficult to sift through all their calumniating to find the facts underneath. I regard myself as a fairly sophisticated consumer of news. I mean, I used to work for a newspaper. I'm the president of a video company now. I have a tough time getting facts about Tommy Robinson from the mainstream media. And I want to know facts. I want to be there. I want to look at the judge and see what his demeanor is like. I want to look at the other lawyers, see what they're like. And I want to report these facts to you. I want to take meticulous notes in the courtroom. I want to tell you what objections are sustained or overruled. I want to tell you what Tommy's lawyers are like. I want to let you know what the crowd is like in the courtroom and outside. There's a lot of things I want to do, and I just don't trust delegating that basic fact-finding to the media party that despises Tommy. Because I am quite certain that if there is something that is unfair or untoward, that they will gloss over it, and if there's something that is to Tommy's credit, they will ignore it or spin it. And if there is some trifle against Tommy, they will emphasize it and exaggerate it. I've seen it with my own eyes on the occasions I would be in the UK with Tommy and then look and see things with my own eyes and then see the media coverage thereafter. So I'm going to go there, and I do have a hope. Maybe I'm a fool. I have a hope that Tommy will actually be released. Because only in the most dire of cases does someone have to serve their full sentence. Tommy was sentenced to 13 months, and it'll be 2 months, almost to the day, on his appeal. But when you are serving solitary confinement, that counts for more. It ought to, at least. Why is Tommy in solitary? People ask me that. Did he do something wrong? Did he fight with other prisoners? No, the opposite. He was in Her Majesty's Prison, HMP Hull, which is in Leeds, the city in which he was arrested. I understand that HMP Hull, Her Majesty's Prison Hull, is actually the safest prison in the United Kingdom for Tommy. And he was okay there. But then, for no reason, warning, or explanation, he was transferred to HMP Onley, which is dangerous to Tommy. And therefore, he has been in solitary ever since. Why was he transferred? For what possible reason? Well, I put it to you, he was transferred precisely for that reason, to put him in jeopardy or to force him into solitary. And we have yet to hear a good explanation for why that was done. Tommy is no threat to himself or to others. Why would he therefore be put in a prison where he himself was threatened? Who made that decision and on what basis? I think there has to be an inquiry into that. Of course, you know, Tommy does not work for me, and I am not in a position to launch such an inquiry or to fund one myself. But we are helping in the one way we know how, which is we've crowdfunded Tommy's legal defense with the cooperation of his family and the direction of them. Obviously, I wasn't going to meddle in their affairs, and I stay in touch with them actually on a daily basis by email, occasionally by phone. I try not to bother them. So wouldn't that be amazing if on July 24th, Tommy is freed? You know, on something like that, you don't even want to say that because you don't want your hopes to be smashed. But I think that could be it could be the outcome. I think remember, there's two things being appealed. First is the length of his sentence, and the second is his lawyers are looking for bail. I won't get into the legalities of it. So I think Tommy going home that day is a real possibility. If the judge upholds the extreme sentence, you'll call me a fool for having trusted. Yep, you could well be right. All right, it's 12:38. We're 2/3 of the way done. I'm going to take time to catch up on some super tweets, super chats. I see Heather Skinner says, "We'll be at Whitehall this weekend. Love your show." Well, thanks very much, Heather. I hope it's a good turnout. There's been some really good turnout before, including the big rally I think there was in early June. So hopefully this will be a good one. I know Trump's visit is creating some other political percolations. Hopefully things will be peaceful. My one worry about demos, as they call them over in the UK, is when you have a public demonstration where anyone on the street can just come on up. You could have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 good faith protesters on good behavior. And you could have one person who acts like a yob, gets drunk, gets into a fight, attacks a police officer, God forbid, does a Nazi salute. One person. 20,000 great people. You have one person, and because you didn't restrict access, who is he? Is he truly a right-wing yob, or is he an agent provocateur sent by the left, posing as a Tommy supporter to discredit Tommy supporters? That's the one risk that I had in mind when Tommy would talk about doing demos when he was with us. And he did a few demos, including a huge one in Manchester. You might recall 5,000 people shortly after the terrorist attack of the Ariana Grande concert there. Tommy led a march of about 5,000 people in Manchester, extremely well behaved. But a couple of yobs made the news, and I would bet you that they were not legit. I bet they were globalist, Antifa, hope not hate plants from the left. That's just how they operate. All right, I'm going to read some more chatty comments, and then I want to. Do we have any ads today? Yeah, we got one. All right. So I'll read some more comments. Then we'll play a quick ad, and then we'll move on to our last subject. Happy Infidel Fox says, Tommy's too valuable alive. They won't kill him. I don't understand what you mean by that. I think, God forbid, if Tommy were killed in prison, there would be riots in the UK, though. And some of them would probably be provoked by the left, but I think there would be genuine riots. Because people would know the plain truth, which is that he was sent to a prison where his death was a high possibility, and he was sent there by the state. I don't support riots, by the way, in case you're wondering. But I would understand them if they happened because Tommy was deliberately put into prison where he's in danger. He was not in danger at Hull. I don't know why they put him in HMP only. Ann Barnes, hey Jason, Tommy will never be forgotten. I hope you're right. Oh, here's a tweet from Mark Britton. Hull is 60 miles from Leeds. Boris Johnson, third to resign government. Will you help Amy, Bacon Lady, with 3 charges against her? I think I got an email from Amy over the weekend. I got an email. There's all these cases people are bringing to my attention. So I guess my question is, I want to do my due diligence. I think I might have received an email from Amy on the weekend. We have some reporters over there in the UK. We've got Katie Hopkins, of course. She's more a commentator, but she does do investigative journalism. And we have Jack Buckby, and we have Martina Marcotta. So we do have some staff in the UK, and I'm still looking through the notes that I received. I think it was from the same Amy. It might be someone else. So I'm sorry, that's the best answer I have right now because I'm not ready to commit until I do some more due diligence. That's the thing. Tommy, when he worked with us, and I'm sure it was the same after he left, got so many people asking him for help. They would contact him via Facebook, text message. Back then he was on Twitter, friends of friends. And he managed to vet these cases pretty well. You'll remember some of them. We had Chelsea Wright, the young lady from Sunderland. We had John Fletcher, Fletcher's Convenience Store, also in Sunderland. We had Nikki, we had the dinner lady, we had Chris from the Navy, we had Knox from the Navy. Tommy helped a lot of people, and he managed to do the triage on his own with his friends. Because you could imagine a lot of people want Tommy's help because either they genuinely want his help or they like publicity and a little bit of celebrity. Maybe they think there's some money in it. So Tommy would probably get, I'm just going to guess, 5 to 10 requests a day. And to sort through those and make sure you're not walking into a trap, make sure the person you're talking to isn't crazy, isn't so discreditable. I mean, it's okay if someone you're helping has a few blemishes, we all do as humans, but are they so odious that they are not someone that the public would rally to support? So Tommy managed to do a pretty good triage. And all I'm saying is that when I get tips about something in a foreign country, especially, I want to make sure I want to make sure we're not going off half-cocked, because our enemies surely would love to see us follow on disinformation. Dave's fault, Ezra is Canadian. Indeed I am, but I am interested in the world beyond our borders. Let me just tell you what's interesting about our trip to Israel, which is back from that on Thursday, is I thought that we would be like 95% Canadian. No, we weren't. We had people from South Africa, Australia, the United Kingdom, the United States, Denmark, Hungary, and Canada, of course. And how do we get all these people? So many Australians and a lot of Brits, because the stories we talk about are universal, at least to the West and the Anglosphere. And it wouldn't surprise me if one day we had someone join us from India, because they have similar issues. They speak English there. They have similar issues about Islam and things of that sort. Now, India is not that wealthy a country, and this was an expensive trip, but it would not surprise me if our roots in the Anglosphere continued to deepen. I'm glad I'm going to the UK on the 24th, because I think people in the UK and Canada and the United States and Australia and all these places I mentioned will find it interesting. And, I think when I do my reporting, I will naturally sort of have Canada in mind, because that's sort of where I'm from and what I know. But now that I think about it, I think a lot of Brits would probably watch my video, I think. Don't want to be presumptuous. Because they've learned not to trust the Times, the Telegraph, or even the tabloids like the Daily Mail or the Sun either. Isn't that weird that I'm a Canadian? I mean, listen, I really admire Paul Joseph Watson. I think you know that. He's not so much a hard news journalist. He's a commentator, and he's the best in the business, by the way. I love that guy. I hope he comes to Tommy's Appeal, but that's not his style, really. Paul Joseph Watson isn't to go out and put a microphone in front of someone. He's a good digester and a critic and an analyst. So I think I'm going to be doing some news reporting, and I think there'll probably be other mainstream media journalists there too. But I just know in my bones you're not going to be able to trust a single word they say. So I want to bring news back to our rebel supporters, but in a way I want to give news to the Brits too, right? All right, let's take a couple of more questions. John Zealand says, will Boris Johnson join UKIP? I very much doubt it. I very much doubt it. But look, I'm not an expert in the UK. You tell me. Spencer J. PM Trudeau is fake head to toe. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, we're going to have more on him tonight on my 8 p.m. show. Andrew Bursyke. Ezra, what are your thoughts on Doug Ford fighting back against Trudeau? Well, I think he will do it. I think he's got to do it. I think he's right to do it. I think he has a mandate to do it. He just won a big election provincially, and fighting against the carbon tax was fairly central to that. I'm just trying to find some that make some sense. Matt Getty, laugh out loud. Google throttling the rebel. They're supported by the same Zionist bastards. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, I'm pro-Israel, as I think a lot of conservatives are. I'm also a Jew, but I think I would be pro-Israel even if I wasn't, the same way I'm pro-Taiwan. We talked about this before. I support Taiwan even though I have no personal, ethnic, religious, linguistic, geographical connection to Taiwan, because it's a little democracy next to a big bad authoritarian regime, and that's how I see Israel. The little liberal democracy in a sea of dictatorships, caliphates. We talked about the Islamic Republic of Iran. I mean, there's not a lot of good guys over there. I have a theological connection to Israel because it is where Mount Zion is. I suppose Christians could say the same thing. I just think those are boring tweets, boring comments. David KTVR, diversify Canada's economy, start manufacturing removable eyebrows. It's a funny joke. Okay, Kim Sated, Red Pill Phil has a video up about Bacon Lady Anne. Okay, is it Anne or is it Amy? I'll check out, I really like Red Pill Phil. I'm going to write a note to Red Pill Phil. I'm going to check out his video. I really like Red Pill Phil. Andrew B., God bless Knox. Yeah, that was such a great campaign, wasn't it? Can you just pull up some B-roll of Thank Knox? Just want to remind people. I don't think Tommy ever served in the military, but he sure loves the military. And I think they love him back. And there's this Navy vet named, I think his first name was Gareth. Am I right on that? Knox, K-N-O-X. Everyone just calls him Knox. And he was a bit of a hero, a bit of a celebrity in the Navy. And then he got a debilitating condition. I'm not sure what it was called. Just throw up any old B-roll. Thank Knox, K-N-O-X. Remember that guy there? And so we bought him that. Look at that. Because the Navy wouldn't get him the proper off-road style. There's Tommy. Can we show him Knox and that vehicle he was in? That was that was like an all-terrain vehicle wheelchair. It could go on beaches. It could go over curbs. I just want to show you that because that was Tommy's idea. Tommy hated the fact that our soldiers, UK soldiers, but it's the same in Canada, especially those. I'd love to show that wheelchair again. Our friends are just, my friends are just looking at it. So he was given like a crappy old wheelchair. That's probably good enough for most people, but this Knox was a real athlete. Like in the Navy, he would participate in all these like strongman competition type games. And for him not to be able to do that and for him to lose his mobility was really, really not great. But the Navy refused to give him, look at that thing. So you see he's lost his, but yeah, just check this out. This thing, look at those tires. Look at those tires. And it's easy to control. And look at it go, you just tootle around. That thing, high mobility. Look at Tommy. Tommy was just thrilled. Look at that. Look at that. How great was that? We crowdfunded that. Tommy crowdfunded that. And that's the right kind of a wheelchair for Knox. Thanks. I just wanted to show that wheelchair because it's not just a wheelchair. And I mean, Knox, Tommy would say that his friends would take him down, carry him down to the beach, throw him in the water, and he would swim because he likes that high activity lifestyle. And he hates the fact, I'm not sure what his illness was, if it was, I don't want to guess. Anyways, so that was one of the things Tommy did. All right, I don't even know why I got onto that. I got one more story I want to tell you, and it's just as well as 12:52. I'm sorry I rambled on there a bit, but I just forgot, oh, I know. Because I was talking about doing due diligence. And you can imagine a lot of people saw that Tommy crowdfunded, I think that was like an $18,000 wheelchair. I can't remember. It was incredibly expensive. It was almost like a small car. And you could see it was pretty amazing. I think that's the finest wheelchair you can buy. Actually. Do you see those tires on that thing? See that thing go over a curb? Anyways, so the thing, imagine that. So you see Tommy being chummy with Knox, getting Knox this $18,000 wheelchair. Maybe it was 18,000 pounds. It couldn't be that expensive. You can imagine how many people say, oh, Tommy, help me. And so you got 100 requests, people, because everyone wants to hang out with Tommy because it's so much fun. And wouldn't it be amazing if Tommy got them an $18,000 wheelchair too? So Tommy did the due diligence there. I guess what I'm saying is I want to make sure that if we do a campaign, like some people are suggesting that we help, Amy or Ann or whoever it is, I want to make sure we do our due diligence like Tommy did with mine. You understand what I'm saying? Like if we can, like Tommy helped, I don't know, 10 people. So if you can help one person a month, you better make a good choice, right? Someone that you can really make a difference, someone who's got a really clear story to tell, someone who is not embarrassing in their own way, who hasn't caused the problem, who hasn't, isn't a really bad dude. And someone who's willing to go on camera so you can tell the story and raise the funds. Crowdfunding only works if you can inspire the public. So that's my point, is that to do the due diligence there, that's journalism. That's what journalism is. And Tommy had it instinctively. Tommy was quite natural at that. He has sources, and he's got a good instinct. All right, enough about Tommy. I want to talk about America. Let me take a 30-second break. We'll run a quick commercial. I'll be back after these short messages. Don't go away.
It was one of the largest manhunts in history, and he was found right here.
What a huge celebration for freedom, what a huge celebration for Western civilization.
It would be the worst depression in Canada since the dirty 30s.
All these lies just to stir up uninformed lefties.
It all started on Twitter, as anything worth mentioning does.
Nothing's ever going to happen because the police are so terrified of this ever getting out.
As we all know, this isn't the first time that Catherine McKenna has driven her Twitter account right into the ditch.
They will not let us win another election with our old tactics. Meme control is underway.
The Trump derangement syndrome is off the charts.
Look at that. I hadn't seen that ad before. Look at all those rebel personalities. I think we're missing Menzoid from that, though. I think we're missing David Menzoid. Ben Davies from Hollywood. Amanda Head, the Hollywood conservative. Kurt Schlichter. Katie Hopkins, of course. Jack Buckby and Martina Markota, they're in the UK. Sheila Gunn Reid. John Cardillo. That's a big lineup, isn't it? It's great to see it all together. I think we're missing the Menzoid. I think we got to add him into that. All right, it is 12:56. Oh my gosh, it's only 4 minutes left. Let me show you what the left has left. I mentioned before, like in the UK, this is basically what they're doing to Brexit, the resistance. But in America, it's got very physical, very violent, very threatening. Take a look at Mitch McConnell. It's a senator, not particularly Trumpy senator. And this new move by any Democrat who sees any Republican to threaten them, to physically attack them, as Senator Rand Paul has been attacked several times, as Steve Scalise, the congressman, was shot. Here's the latest involving Mitch McConnell.
You out! Vote you out! Where are the children? Vote you out! Vote you out! Vote you out! Vote you out! Vote you out!
Where are the babies?
Vote you out! Vote you out!
Yeah.
Vote you out! 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 What are you doing to get the babies back?
Yeah, we know where you live, too. We know where you live. Yeah! We know where you live, Mitch.
Abolish ICE!
Abolish ICE!
Abolish ICE!
Abolish ICE!
Abolish ICE!
We did good, fellow citizens.
Now, I happen to think that it is lawful to criticize a politician. I think it's lawful even to be rude to a politician. But when you say, we know where you live, there's a degree of menace there. I don't think that should be illegal, but I think it's bordering on unethical, especially when we've seen physical threats. And in some cases, those threats being carried out. I mentioned the attack on Rand Paul. We know where you live. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does that imply that we're going to hurt you at your home? I understand that Stephen Miller, the key staffer to Donald Trump, in my view, especially on issues like immigration, I understand that he needs Secret Service protection because he's under so many threats. That's how bad it is. That's the left. That's all they got left. That's Antifa for you. Quick, we got 1 minute left. Put the Steve Bannon article up. Steve Bannon was just at a bookstore. I think he was in Richmond, Virginia, called the Black Swan. He was just looking at books. And some Democrat just starts screaming in the bookstore. Now, the bookstore owner, rather than kicking out Bannon, called the police on the screamer. And now the left is sicking the mob on the bookstore itself. I bet you it'll be torched or have its windows smashed within a week. That's the left for you. They never change. if they don't win an election, they'll steal it through violence. That's what Brexit is. The left lost the election, now they're trying to steal it. That's our show for the day. The hour went by quickly. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for all your super chats. If I didn't get to yours, I'm sorry. I think we got through most of them, if not all of them. I'll be back tomorrow. And actually, I'll be on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern with my regular show. Until then, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, goodbye, and keep fighting for freedom.